essentially, we are going to try to build what we perceive to be, quote unquote, the best lineup, aka if a guy is taking a dump 2 minutes before this starts, who are the 6 guys that he's throwing in a lineup? Who are the most obvious plays of the week? Is Casey the first man in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Casey's in. Casey's in this lineup, $7,400. Who else do you think fits that mold? Because at the top, it could be Rory, it could be Vic, it could be Rahm. Like, that's not an easy selection. In the 9s, it could be no one. In the 8s, it's kind of tough. Like, Casey is just... I think that if Gooch ends up playing well, Gooch is going to be another guy in this.
Yeah, I was going to say Berger if we're talking 8K range.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say Berger as well.
So Berger's in?
8,800 Berger. I do like the Gooch call. If Ben wants to go against it, he can. I just think it's already, like, there's going to be enough to talk about there with him where people are comfortable with it. He's a cut maker, decent here. Like, there's just everything lines up. So if you plug him in, you still have almost 9,000 for your last 3 spots.
He has the mix of good history here last year with good form coming in the tournament. Everyone just watched it against a good field. So I feel like it all depends on how he finishes up. Obviously, like I see Chris Kirk is just moving up the leaderboard. He's in like 6th place now at API. So
nice.
All of a sudden,
I'd like to hear that.
All of a sudden, that's just going to shift a ton of ownership to Kirk that may have went to Gooch, if you know what I mean. So it's tough to parse that out right now. So those are the 2 obvious guys right off the top. Berger and Casey. Anyone else who's obvious?
I think that you can make the case that a lot of people are going to look to the 6s and say, okay, there's some names, but man, I want to end at 72. Like, it's going to be a really comfortable build for people to land on ending their teams with Gooch, and I think that's why he probably should be in this.
So Gooch or Kirk at 7,000 to get that extra savings.
Let's build it with Gooch and then see what it lands on. At the end, if we think the 200 is make or break, we could say there's your Kirk play.
Yeah.
We're going to commit, but we know that's possible based on how this tournament ends out.
All right, so we'll leave that as the swing spot of 7,200. If we need the extra 200, we can get there. $8,700 remaining for our 3 guys. Who is the stud you think most people go to? Is it Hovland because of the pricing?
I don't know, Ben. Do you think Hovland, Decky?
If he wins...
Yeah, if Hovland wins.
I think if Hovland wins, it's definitely Hovland. We don't know that, of course, but the lowest of the 10s as the winner of API, I think will overtake Rory, who would be my other answer here.
So let's just throw Rory in.
I was going to say, let's do that, because one thing I don't foresee, no matter what happens here, even if Hovland wins this tournament and will be popular, yes, would you foresee a lot of Hovland starting point lineups when you've got Rahm, Rory, Kawa, JT, guys above? It's still tough to see.
I think a lot of people watched that first round on Thursday. Like, even watching SportsCenter up here, it was just like, Rory's back! And like, most people won't even know how he ended up finishing at the tournament, whether he wins or comes 20th or something like that. It's just like, oh, I saw Rory was on, let's use Rory.
I agree. And that's why I think that makes more sense, starting with him.
So Rory, Berger, Casey, Gooch. That leaves us 7,900 for 2 spots, Ben.
7,900 for 2 spots. All right. I'm looking at... I have clicked in... I don't know if we need to do this, but do you think that people will see Billy Ho's recent form here, know he's a Florida guy, and say, okay, at 81, and he gives you access to a ton of guys? Or do you think it's more Sanjay?
If you use someone in those low 8s, then you're into the upper 7s. You could theoretically
do like Fitzy answer.
Well, I think you could also do, I mean, if we talked about Gooch and we talked about Kirk, what if you use Gooch and Kirk? And now you have 8,800 and use Louis.
That's the build.
Okay.
Because the alternative, just so to chime in, because I was where Ben was at, when you do the play there with Billy Ho, it lands you on like Fitzpatrick, Answer, those guys.
And they don't seem to be super popular, right?
They're not going to be. And even if you took Gooch down to Kirk, it was only to go up a little bit. It's not like you were going to get that much more out of the play. So, yeah, I do think that's a way you could go. And I think your way, Pat, makes more sense.
I don't know. I mean, I'm going to submit this lineup. So the lineup right now, unless we want to make any tweaks to it, is going to be Rory at the top, Berger, Louis. Those are the big 3, and then it's in with Casey, Kirk, and Gooch.
Yeah, and it leaves $100 on the table. That's the key. Making sure we got just that little extra there.
Well, I mean, play the best play lineup guy doesn't like leaving $100 on the table.
That is true. They try and find that upgrade.
Cuss tried to talk me through this one time because I told him he built this lineup. He's like, I really like this lineup. He's like, but it has $300 left. He's like, I didn't use all my money. I was like, you're allowed to enter a lineup that doesn't use all the money.
You don't get it back.
Yeah, he's like, well, I want to use all my money. They're giving me all this money. I better use it.
Yeah, that's cost me a lot in the past. Where you do that, on like a high dollar hand build. Where if I just do this, I may as well go up. This week, people did it with Paul Casey. I don't want to play the Paul Casey chalk. Let me play Coke Rack. Yeah, how's Coke Rack's week going now?
Hey, he made the cut.
Made the cut, but I'm thinking it was a pretty bad morning from when I stepped into the studio today. But and just of note for me, I don't want to split it with all you guys, so I'm switching Kirk to Kisner in my best plays lineup because Ben sold me on Kevin Kisner.
But that's very interesting, though, Ben, when you talk about reverse engineering the lineups, that, hey, if this is going to be a common build, the one that we just laid out, maybe it won't be. I think it will be, though, is what are the tweaks you would then make to this to make it like your own lineup? Because obviously, if we're playing the best plays, these are the 6 best plays inside the salary cap that we can kind of find. Obviously, you don't want to fade all of these guys, right?
No, absolutely not. That's something that I think gets overblown where it's like, I have to do 6 of something. Like I want to be aggressive. I need 6 low-owned plays. You absolutely do not, and you shouldn't. You need 6 plays that work together. So like what I just did, I'm just playing around right now. I took out Gooch and I took out Kirk and I bumped down to Wise. And then I went up to a guy like Mark Leishman. And like now I've leveraged the lineup plenty and I've only 2v2'd it. There's a million permutations you can make, and I've kept the core intact because I think at the surface we'd all agree there's a reason guys are really popular. It's because they're playing good, they're in good spots. So you don't want to just totally ignore those guys. You just want to find small tweaks. Like Kirk to Kisner, I think is the perfect example. Kirk, I think, has a much better chance to make the cut. I think Kisner has a much better chance at much lower ownership to really smash and make the difference.
Yeah, you can even do something like take out Kirk and play Joel Damon and move Berger up to Scheffler if you wanted to.
Exactly.
I've got the nuts.
Oh, you got the nuts?
I always find the nuts.
Let's hear the nuts.
The 2 most obvious. The guy up top who's going to be the most volatile is Rory because all the studs are around him, so you take him out. The potential worst chalk play of the slate in large field, Paul Casey. You remove those 2, it's Morikawa and your choice of Webb Simpson or Abe Answer. Boom. You've got it. No one wants to go back to Webb. Cow will be lower owned than Rory. You get rid of the 2 potentially most volatile plays in the current lineup. The rest all fit and work, and hopefully they make the cut and come through. Done.
I like that.
Yeah.
I would play Answer instead of Webb.
I think I would too. I'm looking at it. But you know what's funny is there's actually, I just didn't hop onto DraftKings yet for this. I got the pricing and downloaded it. It's the out. They've got by him and the unfortunate Jason Day comment earlier. I apologize again, but they have the out by
Bryson,
him and Bryson's out, and they do have that. Like that makes people, you know how that works in football. And Ben, you too, the Q tag all week when we know he's playing. The guy is playing. We know it. Still has lower ownership. So Webb is interesting at 7,600 down here. Again, hope he pops up and does his thing. It's risky, but you can play it with Answer as well.
Mayo experience.